A very good morning to all my dear friends. This is Prashant Maune and I warmly welcome all of you to StudyIQ. Dear friends, be a hero. Always say I have no fear. This has been said by Swami Vivekananda and it applies to both boys and girls, right? You can call yourself hero, and if you keep on telling yourself this thing that I have no fear, then within a couple of days you will observe that the fear in you, it could be a fear of studying, or it could be fear of examination or any other thing. Slowly you will find a change in yourself. So do give it a try. And if you find any sort of positive results, then I would love to hear from you. The thing is, if you go through the work of many contemporary people, or you can say contemporary psychologists and other people working in the field of mind and how it works and things like that, then they say that self-talk is a key to success. So this is the reason why I have presented this thing to you. Now, dear friends, before moving ahead, please allow me to introduce all of you to our pen drive and tablet courses for different exams like SSC, Bank, UPSC and other government exams of national and state level. StudyIQ offers different pen drive and tablet courses. They help you a lot with your preparation, and if you don't have it, then I would recommend all of you to get it as soon as possible. If you have any further question or queries regarding it, all you have to do is check out StudyIQ.com. Even then, if you are struggling, then you can feel free to give us a call on the numbers that you can see on your screen. Now, dear friends, the first editorial that we have today is pertaining to ease of doing business. This was one of the main reasons why I provided you with a picture, a detailed picture of ease of doing business, and I'm sure you remember that yesterday I highlighted a couple of important things that were provided in that picture. I'm sure all of you have gone through it, and if you haven't gone through it yet, then I would recommend all of you to do it as soon as possible. This is a very important topic, and you could find questions in your pre-examinations, MCQ type of questions, and you can expect questions in your descriptive exams as well, and they can ask you questions in your interview as well. This is such a sort of you can say a very important topic. Now, the thing is, we know that the World Bank Ease of Doing Business report is out, and remember this thing as well. It is the World Bank that produces this ease of doing business report, and it compares different countries, right? It does not compare different states, right? It compares different countries. So keep this thing in mind as well. And there are 190 countries that are taken on board for this analysis, and out of 190, India at present is at rank 100, which is not bad at all. We can safely say that we are somewhere in the middle. And earlier on, if we go through our reports, then we find that we were since last many years we were somewhere around 140, 42 and 131 and 30 and things like that. So we have jumped 30 positions. We used to be 130 last year, and before that we were 131. So the progress in these 2 years was not that much, but this year we have jumped 30 positions, and it is itself a big thing for a big economy or a big country like India. Now, the other thing is that the government of India, that is the Modi government, is lucky as well at present, because the report is out, and the report is showing a good side, or you can say the bright side of our reforms, because we know the way this demonetization was criticized, and I must say that it's not that demonetization is all negative. Of course, there are some short-term pain of this demonetization, and it has created a sort of disturbances in the economy, but this thing, as it is done by government of India, then we can say that it is a thing that was required, right? There are many people who were part of this decision of introducing this demonetization, and now it is all over. But anyways, it did had some negative impact, but it's not that it is the only thing that is creating a slowdown in the economy. The other thing is rollout of GST. GST, we know it very well that it is a good thing, no doubt about it. It is going to expand the tax base, and more people are going to come under tax net, right, when we talk about indirect tax in particular, and eventually it will help with the direct tax as well. If you don't know the difference between indirect and direct tax, then let me quickly tell you that if you earn say for example, if you are doing a job, and if you are earning money out of job, of course you are getting salary out of this job, so the tax that you pay on your income is called a direct tax. And if you buy a packet of biscuit and it has, say for example, 2% tax, a rough example, let's say 5% tax or GST or any other tax on a packet of biscuit or any other thing, then this tax that you pay on this goods or any good or service is called indirect tax. Now anyway, so this is going to widen the base, and the more money in the hand of the government, that means it can spend more money for the development of our country as well. So at present, for the longest period of time, or you can say from last many months, things were talked about this demonetization and GST, and as I told you, these two are not the only reason for the slowdown in the economy. But anyways, the government is a bit lucky, because now this ease of doing business has taken the attention of the country. It is the talk of the town at present. And regarding GST, let me tell you that the main issue with the GST at present is the GST network. And network, it is an online platform through which you pay your GST returns. So this thing is not working at present. There are some technical issues and things like that, and it happens with every society, every country, that whenever you try to introduce any sort of new change, then there is a sort of resistance, right? Generally speaking, people are averse, or they are not that happy to accept change, but there are some changes that we have to do. So anyways, these are the things, and one of the most important thing that is coming from the government, and this has been said by Finance Minister. He said that this is not where we are going to stop. We are going to continue doing more and more. We will continue doing reforms, and we want to see ourselves in the top 50, right, when it comes to ease of doing business. This is the official target, or you can say this is the target set by Narendra Modi government. Now there are some not negative side, but I would say that this report is not that holistic as well, because if you go through other states, then you find that states like Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and states like Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh, they have done quite well. They used to be somewhere around 20-25 rank when we compare internal ease of doing business, but the World Bank focuses only on, means they were 2022, but if you see their report now, when we talk about internal ease of doing business, then they are in top positions, number 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. So they have done quite a good, and Delhi and Mumbai are not that good when you compare it with internal ease of doing business. But World Bank takes only 2 cities of India when it is going through this ease of doing survey. And if your country is a small country, then only 1 city will be taken on board, but a big country like India, they take 2 cities. So keep this thing in mind as well, so you know that this is not a sort of thing that is you can say a complete real picture of India. It is just a bit of what's going on in India. Anyways, why we have been able to do this good or perform this well in this ease of doing business? Because of many things that we have changed, like new insolvency and bankruptcy resolution process. Now remember this thing as well, that not every sort of insolvency and bankruptcy is an act of willful defaulter, right? Many times there are some situations in you face, or you encounter situations in business through which you go through this sort of or you are forced to face this sort of situation of bankruptcy and insolvency. And there are other ways as well, other things that we have changed, like paying taxes online, and the credit access to credit has improved, and this sort of things have helped us to jump 30 positions. And enforcement of contract, land acquisitions, these are the things in which we are lagging behind, so we have to improve these things as well, right? And intention of the government is right, but we have to change this thing, or we have to ensure that implementation is also there in terms of both letter and spirit. Moving on to another item, and this is about tuberculosis. Now I'm sure you know that India is having a huge amount of people or population that is affected by this disease, and one of the most basic thing is that this disease is you get to catch this disease because of bacteria. So keep this in mind as well. And here you will find in this editorial there are many things that are important for your pre-examination and for your mains as well, because whenever you are writing, say for example, if you are writing an answer for your mains, it could be any mains examination. It's not only about UPSC, other mains examinations as well, or any other exams in which you have to write descriptive answers. During that time, you don't have to use all these figures and digits, right? You don't have to remember all of them. But let's say you are talking about tuberculosis or public health, and if you just highlight this thing, if you are just using this line here that the WHO's global tuberculosis report of 2017 is saying this, then that will fetch you good marks, right? That will add more logic, more weight to your answer. So you find many things in this article pertaining to in that context. Now the thing is, there is a slight drop in numbers of new tuberculosis cases, and this is good, but this is just a small change. Here you can see in 2015 we had 2.84 million new cases, but in 2016 we have 2.79. Now the thing is, this sort of drop has been observed both at in our country, at countries level, and on the global level as well. And the target set in the end TB strategy, right? This is a strategy followed by the whole world. End TB, this is the name of the campaign. Our globally reduction of 20% in incidence and 35% in mortality by 2020. So keep this in mind. And the base year that they count is 2015. If they ask you that what is the base year, then base year is 2015. Base year basically means that all the figures that you are going to compare with will be, you will compare your future data with the 2015 year's data. So that's why it is called a base year. Now of course, to achieve these targets, we have to improve. If we want to reduce this 20% and 35%, then the way we are going, or the whole world is going, is not enough, because at present we are this rate of incidence is going on at 2% per year. If we want to achieve this 20%, then we have to be somewhere at 4 to 5%. Talking about deaths, we want to reduce it by 35% at global level. At present, the rates are down, right, from 16% to 10%. So we have to improve a lot. And when we talk about India, right, the biggest problem that we have is we are not having reliable data with us. What is happening is that if you go to a government hospital, right, then of course they will take your everything. They will take your Aadhaar number, and they will take your mobile number and things like that. And the reason why they do it is because the way program is designed, and the importance of this data collection is that see, with the TB, let me give you a small basic idea regarding this thing. Say if you are prescribed 6 months of medicines, right, you have to take some medicines every single day. And if you leave this, if there is a sort of gap, right, if there is a long gap of empty spells, you can say, or if you are not taking medicines on time, then what will happen, that this bacteria will get even more stronger. So if you are prescribed with say for example medicine A, and if you are not taking it on regular basis, then the chances are that your TB will become more severe. And the next time if you go to the doctors after 6 months or after a couple of months, then you have to take medicine B, which is a bit more stronger than medicine A. And it will have, of course, some sort of side effects as well. I have seen some people who were affected by TB, and they were strictly told to take medicines on time, and this was thoroughly explained by doctors that if you don't take it, then these are the things that will happen to you. And that's what is happening in our country, right? As soon as people start feeling a bit better, they stop taking this medicine on their own. They think that everything is fine, but after a couple of months or years, they find that they are affected by this this called multi-drug resistance TB, right? So this is a big issue that through which our country is going through. So we have to sort this thing out, and there are many campaigns as well. Awareness campaigns are going on in our country. I'm not sure whether you have seen this advertisement of Amitabh Bachchan, right? And the reason why I'm mentioning here is that because in that advertisement he talks about there is a person who is not taking this medicine and things like that. He is keeping this empty spell. So he is saying this, Amitabh Bachchan is telling him or informing him that if he is not taking this medicine, then it is going to be detrimental for his health. And the more data we have, the more accurate data we have, we can do all this follow-up thing as well. We can ensure that people are taking medicine on time. We can inform their family members to ensure that they are taking medicine on time or not. And if you go to this government organization, then you get all this information, or they collect your data and information. But when we talk about this private players, right, we are still missing this thing. Private hospitals are not collecting this data from they are not collecting data of patients, and because of this thing we find that they are right. So we were talking about this private players. Now the thing is, private players are not collecting data from this TB patients, or the things that or the data they are collecting, they are not supplying it to the government. And how things works on global level is that all the hospitals will report it to government, and then finally the government will report it to World Health Organization. So this is how these things are looked after. So we have to ensure that we collect right amount of data, right information, and a progress report of our patients. If we don't have clay, we cannot make bricks. If we don't have bricks, we cannot make a house or a home. In the same way, if we don't have data, if we don't have proper information, then we cannot provide solution as well. With this, dear friends, keep this thing in mind. This is a name of the medicine is mentioned here, so I thought it could be important for your pre-context. Many times you are asked this sort of questions, whether this disease is caused by this bacteria or virus or things like that, whether vitamin C deficiency of this vitamins or this and that. And in the same way, you may also be asked a name of medicines. So this is the medicine here, rifampicin, right? This is the name here. And our goal as well, India's goal to end TB in our country forever is 2025. And now many times this has been there are some critics who are saying that it is a bit difficult for India to achieve this thing, and India has set a very tight target for this ending TB from our country, because at global level, if you see, then the global target is somewhere around 2030. So we have kept ourselves 5 years earlier. So let's see how things are going on. We have to wait and watch for this thing, and we can wish all the best for to the government and this medical personnel to end this TB menace from our country. Moving on to another item, and this is pertaining to economy. Now we have talked about this thing quite a lot, so it is going to be a sort of easy thing for you to understand here, right? We have talked about the impact of investment and twin engine of growth, private players and government investment and things like that. And recently we also talked about this recapitalization of rupees 2.11 lakh crore, isn't it? We have talked about this thing, so I'm sure you know or basic things about how things are going to work, or its positive or negative impact, etc., etc. But this we are going to be very to the point here. There is no point of repeating ourselves, because we are going to see editorials and articles on this particular thing. So it is of course better for us to add new feathers in our hat, or learn the things that were not mentioned earlier on. So in this way we have all the different views and angles. So here this author or writer is talking about this thing, that the most reliable indicator for economic growth is the growth of non-food credit. Now we know that credit basically means loan. If banks are providing loans, or if there are people who are borrowing money from bank in terms of or as loan, then this indicates that things are positive in the market, because any sort of borrowing or any sort of credit eventually is invested. And you know that when you invest, say for example, if you're having one factory only, now you are borrowing money and then you are opening another factory, so of course you are going to recruit some people, isn't it? So you are going to create jobs. So in this way the whole economy becomes or it comes into a motion, and it becomes more positive as well. Or you can say that there will be a creation of positive vibe in the whole economy. Now if we see the credit growth, then at present it is when we compare it with last 60 years, then we see that it is a very at very low level, and so applies to the money supply too. Now the thing is why this credit offtake is slow. There could be two reasons, right? One is demand and the second one is supply. On the demand side, we can say that the domestic industry is losing market share to low cost imports. Of course, if you have say for example, if you are producing a product and if you are producing it at 10 rupees, right? If the selling price is 10 rupees, and if you are producing this thing at 10 rupees, and if you can import this thing from Japan at the rate of 9 rupees, if the final landing price, or you can say the selling price of the same product from Japan is 9 rupees, then of course people are going to purchase this thing, isn't it? So in this way you are going to lose the companies producing this product in India. Domestic players are not going to get that much business. So this is a thing. Import can impact domestic industry. And the supply side, it is talking about non-performing asset. Now I'm sure you know what non-performing asset is, and this article is talking about 5 things because of which we have seen a sort of drastic rise, or we are facing this problem of non-performing asset. The first one is that the loans given by these banks, or you can say the banks were providing loans to infrastructure projects that are going on, or their completion period is of a longer term, or you can say somewhere around 20-30 years of infrastructural projects. Now if you are giving loan to, say for example, any individual, and for house, say for example for house loan, then you know that house loans are also for 20-25 years. But now the thing is, when you are giving say for example 1 lakh rupees, right, to 50 different people, right, so your eggs are distributed. You are not keeping all your eggs in one basket. This is the thing, isn't it? But when you are investing or giving away a huge amount of share or huge amount of your money to one project, and if the project fails, then you lose your money. So this is one of the reason, and government should, or this banks should, rather than giving money to this big projects, these big projects should be supplied, or the money should be supplied by Asian development banks, or you have world banks and other giant banks. The other thing is judicial decisions like coal mines and spectrum allocation. We know that Supreme Court has cancelled the license of coal mines and spectrum allocation. So what happens with the company, that they have already paid some money and their business is going on, but now the cancellation of this license, they have to purchase new license again, and this will create a sort of issue with them, because now they will borrow more money, and if they are not able to cover all this business or the losses they have made because of this cancellation, then they won't be able to pay back to the bank, and eventually they will take with them bank as well. So problem with these firms will have, eventually it will have a negative impact on banks too. A delay in land acquisition and environmental clearances. We have many companies, right? Recently we know that this West Bengal, this Tata, they transferred their plant from West Bengal to Gujarat, and because of too many hurdles and land acquisition problems and things like that, there was a South Korean company as well. It was going to invest a huge amount of money in our country, but they decided to go away because of this environmental clearance and land acquisition. There are many projects that are on chokehold mode because of this thing. The fourth thing is asset quality review, which is now mandatory. Reserve Bank has made it mandatory since 2015, but it should have been done earlier on, so that we could exactly know what are the things, or how much money is required, and what is the health of the client, And then you have this corruption thing. We have talked about this thing as well. You know, the nexus that is formed between the three players. You have bank, you have government, and you have this this businesses, right? So all together they will work for each other, and eventually this crony capitalism and political interference in lending decisions, whether this government will tell or this political parties will tell that give money to this player or this person, and this these bureaucrats working for a bank, they will give money, and this will create problems as well. So these are 5 major things because of which we are facing this NPA situation. And at present the situation is that bad that 10% of the loans have gone bad. Bad basically means that if you are given away 100 rupees, then you have to forget your 10 rupees. They are never going to come back to you. You have lost it forever. And so what we have to do is that we, of course, recapitalization is a good thing, but it should be accompanied with many reforms. We have to change this 5 things that we have talked about. We have to be up to date regarding the market and other things. Now the final thing is other reforms that we have talked about yesterday, like you have to make this professional, inject more professionalism in private sector banks. If you are paying, say for example, just salaries to these top players, then that they are not going to get that much motivated. If you see private players, their top leaders, they earn huge amount of money and incentives, and this works as a drive as well for them. So if private banks are performing well, then why can't our public sector bank do the same? Moving on to this article, this is about fake news. Now fake news is something that I'm sure you have also gone through many times. We find so many messages and information on WhatsApp and other platforms like Facebook or Twitter that are fake, and they are designed in such a way that you know, nowadays we have all this advertisement, you make a revenue out of this advertisement and things like that. So they are designed in such a way that you will click on this information, and you'll go through this video or you'll go through some articles, and by time they will throw many advertisement in front of you, so they make money out of it. So they are doing this thing. The other negative thing is that we have also witnessed violence taking place because of this false information being catered in the market or in the society. And one of the most important point that I read in this thing is that fake news is not something that has started with just it is not something new, right? It is not that only after the introduction of this online platform we are seeing this fake news. Not at all. I'm sure you might have played this game as a child. It's called Chinese talk. If you remember Chinese talk, you have many people, right, standing in a line. Then you pass a sort of sentence to the first person, and you ask them to pass it to the other person in their ear, of course. And finally, when you listen to the last person standing, then you will find that the line is already changed. It is a nature of human beings to add or exaggerate things. When we are talking about something, everyone does this thing. Of course, that does not mean that everyone does it. What I mean to say is, generally speaking, we find this sort of habit in many people. So this is the thing that is visible in this fake news thing as well. And there are other areas or other things that are going in our society, right? We are seeing a rise of communalism, rise of regionalism, rise of casteism, and other things are a bit up at present. We are seeing lots of violence in the name of religion and things like that, and it could be because of all these communication platforms. We would be feeling that these things might have gone up. These things used to be earlier on as well, but now they are more visible. So this is a thing as well, or this could be a thing as well. Again, I haven't came across any sort of reliable data so far, but this is something that we can grasp or we can understand with our common sense as well, isn't it? So what we have to do is we have to, like, the government has to take some steps. They have to form some guidelines and regulation when it comes to this fake news, because see, those days are gone when people just used to read this thing and ignore it. Nowadays what we see is that there are many sort of disturbances that are created in terms of economy, in terms of social and political life as well. There are some fake news regarding that 2000 rupee note is going to be demonetized, and because of this thing we are seeing that many businessmen are worried about this thing, and they are going to the government and asking for clarification and things like that. We have also seen RBI coming out with many statements, etc., etc. So it has its impact nowadays. So we need some proper laws and guidelines regarding it, because if we see the formal media, right, the news channels and other platforms, they do go through this. They have rules and regulations on them, but application like WhatsApp and Facebook and other app or digital platform, they don't have any sort of these things. This one is about recently we talked about the, again, I'm talking about recently. The thing is that what can I do there? There is a clear connection, right? This is a sort of extension of what we have read earlier on. This is about this sexual abuse being conducted by professors, and Me Too campaign, right? I'm sure you remember Me Too campaign. It is about powerful people, or you can say men abusing or sexually harassing women in different environment. And this article is talking about that in this digital age we have to update the definition of sexual harassment. The thing is, recently there was a case in Pakistan. It is mentioned here that there is a celebrity in Pakistan, and her sister, right, she went to a doctor, and that doctor was sending friend request on Facebook to this sister of this celebrity, and finally they reported this thing, and the doctor lost his job. This could be we find this sort of incidents as well. The other thing is, imagine a scenario where your boss, right, in your company is a male person, and you are a female working in this company. And if your boss is sending you friend request, or if he is say for example on WhatsApp or on Facebook, if he is writing some messages which you don't find that much entertaining, or you feel offended because of this thing, so there is no clear definition whether this should be conducted as a sort of it should be taken as a harassment at a workplace or personal level. So there are many gray areas, and gray areas are not good, because what happens is that many times we also see that innocent people are also harassed by many this sort of people. Or there are few women, right? I'm not saying of course that all of them are doing it. There could be 2%, 5% of women who would be for any motive. It could be money, it could be other thing, right? Whatever it could be, but we are also seeing this sort of fake cases as well. So we have to sort this gray area out as soon as possible. Now there is a sad news coming from United States of America, and it is about a terror attack that took place in Manhattan. Manhattan is a part of New York City, and vehicle was used to kill these people, right? At least 12, including 2 children, were injured, and 8 people so far, as per the media report, have lost their life. And we have observed this thing that vehicles are used, right, quite often by this terrorist. If you see the case of London, Berlin, and then you have this Barcelona, and then you have this Tunisian, this nice city of France, we find that these terrorists are using this vehicle, right? And it is a sort of easy thing, isn't it? It is difficult for these people to get access to gun. Of course, in USA you have more liberal laws, but I can tell you about UK, it is next to impossible for a person not in armed forces to have a gun. Even their police personnel, they don't carry, or they are not allowed to carry a gun. It is only a separate special armed forces that are, or armed police, who are allowed and trained to handle a gun. So they don't have this sort of things over there, guns and bombs and things like that. but these people are using, these terrorists are using vehicles, and this is a big threat for all of us. And of course, my prayers goes out for this for the families, right, who are affected by this act of terror. Moving on to another item, Supreme Court has clearly stated, or it has ordered government, or it has asked the government that what it is doing regarding its directive of 2014. Now in 2014, Supreme Court said that all the cases pertaining to this politician should be sorted out in 1 year. Imagine a case where a person is alleged to be involved in a murder case, and he or she is serving as a MLA or MP for 15-20 years, and after 15-20 years you find that that person is convicted. So this sort of things is not acceptable in any democratic setup. And we know that if we talk about civil services, then if you have any sort of this sort of heinous crime going on, or a sort of case going on against you, or if you are convicted, then you would never be able to get qualified for this thing, this civil services. So the same thing should be applied on politicians as well. And this will, of course, if we implement this thing, then the criminalization of politics and the criminalization of politics, and the way we have too much of, or you can say nearly 30-40% of politicians in our country are having some sort of cases against them, and many of them are having heinous, they are involved in heinous crime. So this is a dangerous situation. And Election Commission and Law Commission has also favored lifetime disqualification of people convicted in criminal cases. 20 people have died in a blast in Uttar Pradesh, and the only thing I would like to highlight here is that you should focus on standard operating procedure. Most of the cases that we hear, this sort of cases, happen because of human error. When I say human error, I mean to say that you have all the rules and regulations, but you are not following it. Because of this thing, many times we see this sort of incident. India and Bhutan relationship, I'm sure you know very well, because Doklam is a thing that took place a couple of months ago. And the main issue behind Doklam was that the main issue was between China and Bhutan, but we have a friendship treaty which we have renewed in 2007, and as per the treaty we will stand for Bhutan if it is in any sort of trouble, and that's what we have done. So you can see the king and queen and a little prince, they are here in India for 4 days. We are going to get drones, right? Drones will be visible in near future, and they will be used for humanitarian purpose, like rescue operations or traffic management and other things, and for commercial use as well. This you can think about it how they can be helpful. They will help in traffic management, as I have already said that. They will help in delivery of emergency medicines and things like that as well, isn't it? With this, dear friends, these are the answers of yesterday's question, and these are your 3 new questions here. With this, dear friends, I end this discussion. I will see you all soon. Till then, enjoy your studies. Right, don't forget to check out StudyIQ.com. Share this lecture, subscribe to our channel. Do give us your like if you have learned something out of this lecture.